Greetings, mighty companions. Anna Kujawa here, and I am teaching A Course in Miracles as I do every Wednesday. And I am teaching from the Complete and Annotated Edition of A Course in Miracles, which is the latest edition of A Course in Miracles. And what's different about this edition of A Course in Miracles is that the Course in Miracles teacher, Robert Perry, went and got all of the material that came through Helen Schuckman, the scribe of A Course in Miracles, and put back into this edition all that was left out of the first two editions. So there's a lot of material in this edition that is new to me, new to all of us Course in Miracles students. And that's why I'm doing this edition, is because I want to learn this new material. I have pre-recorded this class, so you may notice that you are not able to write in your questions this week. But if you do have questions that come up during this session, then feel free to message me on Facebook about them, and then I'll answer them for you as best I can. So where we are at in this edition is we are in Chapter 3, Section 4, where we've just started at the beginning and we're continuing forward. This is just where we left off last week. So we are in the section titled Innocent Perception. So, Innocent Perception, Chapter 3, Section 4. So we're going to be talking about what correct perception means. And in this section it talks about how basically to have correct perception, to see things through the eyes of innocence, to see the true innocence of everything, of everyone, of yourself, to see through the eyes that see that there is no sin, to see the truth of guiltlessness and sinlessness within yourself and others and everywhere. That's what it means to see truly, to have innocent perception. And it says that to see things as they are is our only hope. Our only hope. And it is our only hope because that is truly the essence of healing. When you are healing, it means you are seeing correctly. To see things correctly means you see what is true and you don't see what's not true. And so we are going to hear in this section, how do you see correctly? How do you see truly? How do you only see what is there and you don't see what's not there? So we're going to hear about that. And so basically, to experience a healing in any area of your life right now, that means to see things correctly. To see what you are going through truly, meaning as it is, to see yourself correctly, to see them correctly. When you see things correctly, you are going to experience peace, which means you're going to experience a healing. Now, so here we go. The innocent, it just says innocent perception. We have repeatedly stated that the basic concepts referred to throughout this course are not matters of degree. That means certain fundamental concepts cannot be meaningfully understood in terms of coexisting polarities. What does that mean? That means it's impossible to conceive of light and darkness, or everything and nothing, as joint possibilities. These ideas are all true or all false. Okay? So what it's saying here is in A Course in Miracles, A Course in Miracles is a non-duality path. Basically what that means is that A Course in Miracles is saying that love and fear, light and darkness, sin and sinlessness cannot both exist. They can't both be true. So they either all true or all false. Okay? So guilt and innocence cannot both be truth about you, about them. Okay, so this is a non-dualistic path. And so A Course in Miracles says, look, you're either all innocent, you're either completely guiltless, or you're completely guilty. And only one is true. So only said love and fear cannot both be true. Only one can be true. And so the Course in Miracles needs us to understand that first and foremost. And so what A Course in Miracles is saying here is that it is absolutely essential that you understand completely that your behavior will be erratic until a firm commitment to one or the other is made. Wow. So remember, light and dark, love and fear, guilt and sinlessness cannot both be true. They cannot both be real. And until we have made a firm commitment to one or the other, knowing that they can't be both true and real at the same time, until a firm commitment to one or the other is made, our behavior is going to be erratic. All right. So in this situation in which you are going through and experiencing chaos, you are experiencing chaos because your behavior is erratic. Okay, why is my behavior erratic? Why is their behavior erratic? One minute they're loving, and then they're mean, and then they're upset, and then they're peaceful, and then they're stressed out and anxious. Why is it that their behavior is erratic, and why is it that my behavior is erratic? Behavior is erratic until a firm commitment to one or the other is made. So my behavior is erratic because one minute I am loving and seeing love as real, and the next minute I'm seeing fear and guilt as real, and I'm going back and forth and back and forth, believing that both love and fear are both real. I'm believing that guilt and innocence are both the truth about this situation or that person or myself. I haven't made a firm commitment to one or the other, and that's why our behavior is erratic. So if you would like to have behavior that's not erratic and decrease the level of chaos and inconsistency in your relationships and in your life, then that comes from making a firm commitment that either love is real and true, the only truth, or fear is. What's it going to be? But then it says something very interesting. It says, but a firm commitment to fear or darkness or guilt, which is really nothingness, is impossible. So your behavior is going to be erratic until you make a firm commitment to either love or fear, but you can't even make a firm commitment to the fear, to the guilt, to the darkness. You can't make. Why is that? That I can't make a firm commitment to fear, to darkness, to guilt, no matter how much I try. That's because nobody has ever lived who has not experienced some light, which means some of everything. And this has made everybody genuinely unable to deny truth or love totally, even if they deceive themselves in this connection most of the time. So it's saying your behavior is going to be erratic, and this situation and this relationship is going to be chaotic until a firm commitment is made to either love or fear, so that you're not ping-ponging back and forth. But you can't make a firm commitment. You can't be totally of the darkness. And the reason you can't make a firm commitment to the darkness is because there's nobody who hasn't experienced some light. And so there's nobody who can totally deny the truth and the love completely. Good to know. That's why nobody can fully be committed to the darkness. Nobody can fully be of the darkness. Nobody can. Even if that person believes that there's no light in them, even if that person believes that there's no innocence in them, even if that person wants to side completely with the darkness, with the ego, with the guilt, with the fear, they can't. Nobody can be completely of the dark or of the ego. Even if they want to be, even if they think that there's no light, no love, no innocence in them, even if they believe that there is only guilt in themselves, even if you believe that about them, even if you are like, that person's evil to the core, it's not true. You're not seeing correctly. Even if you feel that way about yourself, even if you see that about yourself, there's no light in me, there's no guiltlessness in me, there's no innocence in me, I am of the dark. No, that's not true. You are not seeing correctly. And that's what it's going to go on to tell us. In other words, nobody can deny the truth, the love, the guiltlessness totally. Nobody. That means anybody, and so everybody has truth in them. Everybody has light in them, even if you can't see it. You always have light and innocence and guiltlessness at your core, even if you don't see it, even if you don't believe it. Why? Because life comes from God, which is love, who is love, which means if you have life, you have light, you have love. Because life comes from light. Life comes from love. So everything that has life has light and love at its center. That is what true perception sees. That is what those who can see truly do see. All right, so it's good to know. And it says that because nobody can deny truth or light completely, that is why those who live largely in the dark, in darkness, in fear, in guilt and anger, which means emptiness, those folks never find any lasting solace. Why is it that those who live largely in darkness, in guilt, in anger, in fear, why is it that they can't find lasting solace? That's because they are believing that there's no light in them. They're believing that to cut out the light, to deny the truth, to deny the innocence, to deny the love and the light, to deny the truth will bring them solace. But you can't deny the truth. You can't cut out the light. You can't deny the truth and the light and the love in you completely. So if you're believing that to get rid of the light and the love in you is going to bring you solace, then you will never experience solace. You'll only experience solace as you acknowledge the truth about yourself, which is that somewhere in you, at your core, is love, is light, is guiltlessness. Why? Because that's how you were created, and you were created that way eternally, meaning you can't change it. Only as you acknowledge that, only then will you be seeing yourself correctly, and only then will you find lasting solace. Beautiful. And then in paragraph 3 it says, so innocence your innocence, your guiltlessness, their sinlessness, your sinlessness is not a partial attribute. Interesting. What does that mean? That means that you are either totally guiltless or not at all. And the truth is that you are completely guiltless. That's the truth that A Course in Miracles is teaching us. A Course in Miracles says this. It says, the core of this curriculum, the core message of this curriculum, the core message of the universal curriculum is we are guiltless. The children of God are guiltless. And in their guiltlessness is their salvation, is their total freedom. So that is the one truth that is wholly and completely true, and it is true universally. It is true in all space, in all time, for all people, universally. Why? Because that is the way that God created creation. God is the creator, and God created God's creations in sinlessness, in guiltlessness, which means no matter what we try to do to ourselves and each other, no matter how we see ourselves and each other as guilty, as sinful, it will only be a misperception. That could never be the truth. It can never be true that the truth about a child of God is guilt. It can never be that any creation of God, that anything that lives was born in sin or has sin at its core. That will never be true. That will never be the truth. Why? Because that is not the truth that God created. That is not how God created us. God did not create us with guilt and sin at our core. We are not born in sin. We weren't created with sin. As a matter of fact, the way God created us, sin and guilt is impossible. Now, we can be mistaken about who and what we are, and we can believe that we can be darkened with sin and guilt and become defective. We can believe that, but it will never be true. And that's what it means when it says your innocence, your guiltlessness, your sinlessness, their sinlessness is not a partial attribute. So it's not like, well, you're guiltless and innocent sometimes, but not other times. You're innocent when you've been only loving, but you're not innocent. You're guilty when you have done something else. Your innocence, your guiltlessness is not a partial attribute. So no matter what you think, no matter what you do, you still are innocent. You still are sinless. And remember, sin, according to A Course in Miracles, means to have made a mistake that can't be corrected. A sin is a mistake that can't be corrected. And A Course in Miracles says you can't make a mistake that can't be corrected. That's why you're not sinful. That's why you're not guilty. You're not sinful or guilty because you can't make a mistake that can't be corrected by love if that mistake is offered to love instead of fear. That's what it means to say your innocence is not a partial attribute. It's not up for debate. You are guiltless. You are sinless. Yes, you can be mistaken, but you can't make a mistake that can't be corrected, for which you need to be destroyed by God. That's the dream. That's the nightmare that we are all dreaming, right? It's the dream of sin, the nightmare of sin. And the Course in Miracles says that belief that we can make a mistake, that can't be corrected, for which our destruction is inevitable by God, says that's why this dream seems so hellish. Because the dream of sin, the belief of sin, turns heaven into hell. And so that's why the core of this curriculum is you are guiltless now and forever. And your guiltlessness is your freedom, your release, your healing, your heaven. So it says your guiltlessness, your innocence, it's not a partial attribute. It's not something you have on Sundays during church and then you don't have it after you leave church and go have a good time. Your innocence is not a partial attribute. You are completely innocent. You are completely guiltless. Now, your guiltlessness and your innocence, it's not a real defense until it's total. What does that mean? That means until you understand that your guiltlessness and your sinlessness applies all the time. It's just your reality. It is your base reality that cannot change until you realize, until your innocent perception is total, then you can't experience the real power, the real healing grace that comes from that total perception. In other words, when your perception of your own guiltlessness and your own sinlessness and your perception of theirs is partial, they're guiltless sometimes, but not always. I'm guiltless sometimes, but not always. It says when your innocence is partial, then your innocence and their innocence is characterized by the same erratic nature that holds for other two-edged defenses. And those who see themselves and others as sometimes innocent, sometimes guiltless, sometimes sinless, sometimes not, those folks are apt to be quite stupid. And I am reading that word from the book, quite stupid at times. So when your perception of your own sinlessness and guiltlessness is partial, which means conditional, and when you are seeing your perception of their innocence is conditional and inconsistent and partial, then you are apt to be quite stupid at times. Why is that? Well, you're going to be quite stupid at times because sometimes you're not going to be perceiving correctly, right? Sometimes you're going to be seeing correctly, sometimes you're not, which means your perception and your behavior is going to be erratic because you're only seeing correctly sometimes. So, having erratic behavior is the same thing as saying you're apt to be quite stupid at times. Why? Because sometimes you're seeing correctly and sometimes you're not. And it isn't until your innocence, meaning your guiltlessness, is a genuine viewpoint. What's a genuine viewpoint? That's a viewpoint which is universal in its application. Only then is your innocent perception wisdom. Okay? So at first you have innocent perception that is erratic. You apply it sometimes. You see innocence and guiltlessness sometimes in them, sometimes not. Sometimes in yourself, sometimes not. Sometimes you see yourself as innocent, sometimes you don't. Okay? So now you have erratic innocent perception, which makes you appear to be quite stupid at times. But when your perception of innocence, when your perception of guiltlessness and sinlessness is universal in its application, Everywhere you look, whether it's at them or this or that or yourself, you only see guiltlessness. You only see guiltlessness. Only then does your correct perception, your innocent perception, become wisdom. All right. So, we're seeing here what the goal is. And the goal is correct perception. Innocent perception. Innocent perception is correct perception. Now, what it says here is it says, innocent or true perception means that you never misperceive, which means you always see truly. So innocent perception means true perception, means correct perception. So what does it mean to have correct perception? It means that you only see what is really going on, which you only see what really is there, and you don't see what's not there. Oh, okay. And so correct perception means that you only see the guiltlessness and the sinlessness that is there, and you don't see the guilt and the sin that is not there. What may be there is a mistake, but not sin. And so to say I'm seeing this correctly is to say I am seeing that even though they may be making a mistake, they are still the guiltless child of God, in whom God is well pleased. And maybe that person is making a mistake from fear, but that doesn't mean they're making a mistake that can't be corrected by love. That's what it means to see that person correctly. That's what it means to see yourself correctly. To see yourself correctly means you go, okay, I obviously am making a mistake because I do not like the way I feel. I do not have only innocence and guiltlessness in my perception. I feel guilty. I feel afraid. So even though I may be mistaken right now, that doesn't mean that I am guilty. It doesn't mean I am sinful. It just means I'm mistaken. What it really means is I'm just not seeing myself correctly. I'm not seeing my own inherent God-given guiltlessness, innocence, sinlessness. I'm just not seeing myself correctly. That's what innocent and correct perception means. More simply, this means that you never see what doesn't exist in reality. So that's what it means to say you have correct perception. Now, and it goes on to say later, when you are seeing things correctly, then you are automatically bringing correction there. You are automatically bringing healing to that situation, to that relationship, to yourself. Okay? Correct perception equals healing. Correct perception equals forgiveness. Correct perception produces miracles. So we're learning how to look upon any situation or any relationship or any person or yourself in a way that will produce miracles, that will produce healing, that will produce peace. Okay? So we're learning how to look on anything in such a way that miracles and healing result. Not bad. Very practical. And so then it says this. It says, whenever you lack confidence in what someone else will do, you are attesting to your belief that they are not in their right mind. Now, you attesting to your belief that they're not in their right mind, it says, this is hardly a miracle-based frame of reference. So, It's one thing to recognize that somebody is mistaken because they are not seeing correctly. It's a whole nother thing to attest to it, to point it out to them. Hey, you're not in your right mind. Hey, you're wrong. Hey, you're wrong. You're not in your right mind. That is attesting to your belief that they are not in their right mind. Well, pointing out to them and attesting that they're not in their right mind, well, that's not a miracle. That's not a miracle-based frame of reference. And attesting to them, pointing out to them that they are not in their right mind, pointing out to them that they're wrong, also has the disastrous effect of denying the essentially creative power of the miracle. Okay, so pointing out to them and attesting to them that they are wrong, that they are not in their right mind, that's not helpful. That's not a healing approach. And it says, and it also denies the power of the miracle. And it says, as a matter of fact, that's because the miracle perceives everything as it is. So the miracle doesn't point out to them that they're wrong. The miracle just what? Perceives everything as it is. It just sees things as they are. It just sees the truth of the matter behind the defense, behind the ego mask, behind the call for love. The miracle-based frame of reference, correct perception, which is healing in its own by its own nature, just sees things as they are. Remember, correct perception just sees what is there, which is guiltlessness behind the call for love, and it doesn't see what's not there, which is guilt or sin. And it says, so if nothing but the truth exists, then right-minded seeing, miraculous seeing, cannot see anything but perfection. Wow. So, miracle-based frame of reference, miracle-based frame of reference, a healing frame of reference, a correct perception that heals just by perceiving correctly. That is a perception that only sees perfection. It only looks and sees perfection. That's all it sees. It knows that only innocence exists. It knows that only the truth is true. It knows that only the love and the guiltlessness and the innocence is the truth about that person and about that situation and about themselves. And it only sees that. And so that is correct perception. That's a miracle-based frame of reference. And with that, you don't have to point out any kind of errors. You just see the truth as it is. You see that only perfection is there. Only guiltlessness. Only the holy, loving, and holy, lovable child of God is there in front of you. And everything else is just a belief. It's just a call for love. It's just an error. That is a miracle-based frame of reference. That is correct perception. Beautiful. And it says that, it says, we have said many times that only what God creates and only what you create with the same loving will has any real existence. This then, all that is real then, is all that the innocent can see. And in other words, the innocent don't suffer from the delusions of the separated ones. So innocent perception, which is correct perception, which is miracle miraculous perception, perception that produces miracles and healing and peace. That is a perception that comes from you knowing that the only thing that really exists is what comes from God. That's all that's real. That's all that's true. So miracle perception comes from a mind that knows that only love is real. Only guiltlessness, only sinlessness, only the sinless, guiltless children of God is the truth. And so that's all they see. And which means that to have correct perception, healing perception, means that you're not suffering from the delusions of the separated ones. So the separated ones are those who are deluded, which means what? The separated ones are those who believe that guilt and fear and darkness and death is real, and they see it wherever they look. Okay? Those are the separated ones. They are deluded. They don't know the truth. They don't know the truth that only what comes from God is real. Only what comes from love and light is real and true. And everything else is nothing but a figment of our imagination, our fearful imagination. The innocent know that, and so that's all the innocent perceive. Beautiful. And so then it says, the way to correct all such delusions. What delusions? The way to correct all perceptions of guilt and sin and lack and death and darkness and disease, the way to correct all such delusions is to withdraw your faith from them and to invest your faith in only what is true. All right, very practical. Here we have an instruction here. All right, are there any, so it's saying that if there's any experience or perception of lack, of loss, of pain, of sin, of guilt around you, that you are not enjoying, that you are suffering from, anything that does appear to be guilty, sinful, lacking, fearful, that you are tired of suffering from, the way to correct those delusions, all such delusions, is to withdraw your faith from them. To withdraw my faith from what? To withdraw my faith in what appears guilty, sinful, lacking, fearful, painful. Withdraw your faith from them and invest your faith in only what is true. What is true? The fact of guiltlessness, the fact of innocence and sinlessness, love. That is what is true. So, if you are suffering in any way, shape, or form with anything, it is because you are deluded, meaning you are seeing what's not there and you're not seeing what is there. You are seeing guilt and sin that is not real, that is not true, and you have invested your faith in that sin, in that guilt, in that fear. You are deluded. You are seeing what's not real. You are seeing what's not there, and you have invested your faith in what's not real. You've invested your faith in something besides love and truth and guiltlessness. Now, if you want to stop suffering from that, just take your faith, withdraw your faith from that, and invest it in the loving truth, the guiltless, innocent truth that God has established in all of God's creations. All right. And it says, to whatever extent you side with guilty perception, with fearful perception in yourself or others, then you're just validating a basic misperception. But you can't validate the invalid. And so I would suggest that you voluntarily give up all attempts to keep investing your faith in what's not loving, what's not innocent, what's not sinless. What did it say? I would suggest, says our teacher, that we voluntarily give up all attempts to keep investing our faith in guilt, in sin, in fear, in lack, in the ego. Stop investing. What is our teacher doing? Our teacher is suggesting that we voluntarily give up all attempts to do so, because all of our attempts to invest our faith in the ego, that which is not loving, that which is not guiltless, those attempts can only be frantic. Okay, so if you're experiencing frantic or anxious energy, it's because you are investing your faith in that which is not there, that which is not true, that which is not loving, and that which did not come from God. And that's why you're experiencing franticness or anxiety. You're trying to do something that you can't really do. You're trying to invest your faith and belief in something that's not true and isn't even really there. You're seeing something that isn't there, and you're not seeing what is there. That's why you're frantic. That's why you're anxious. And it's because you're deluded. And so our teacher is saying, I suggest that you voluntarily give up such attempts to make real what's not. Beautiful. And then it says, and if you are willing to validate what is truth in everything you see, then you will make it true for you. Beautiful. So there's another instruction. So if you are experiencing the effects of being deluded, you're experiencing franticness, anxiety, anything that's not peaceful or loving, what's going on? You don't have correct perception. You're seeing what's not there, and you're not seeing what is there. You're seeing guilt. You're seeing sin, which isn't there. You're seeing fear. You're seeing death. You're seeing lack and loss, which isn't really there, which means you're seeing guilt and sin, which isn't really true. And you're not seeing what is true, which is guiltlessness. And so our teacher is saying, what you could do is voluntarily withdraw your faith, which means stop investing it in what's not loving. Stop investing it in the sin and the guilt in yourself and others, and invest it in the love and the sinlessness and the guiltlessness that really is the truth, that really is in you, in them, and in the situation. And if you will see what is there, which is the guiltlessness, the sinlessness in them and in yourself, then you will experience the guiltlessness, the sinlessness, the innocence, the love that is there, whether you see it or not. Remember that we said that truth overcomes all errors. What does that mean? That means that if you see truly, if you see correctly, then guess what? Then you are canceling out misperceptions in yourself and others simultaneously. Wow, beautiful. That's what it means to say that truth overcomes all errors. That means if you will see with the truth, and you will see the truth, then guess what happens to all those errors? The errors they were making and the errors that you were making. the errors that were producing the pain and the sorrow and the suffering and the chaos and the disaster and the disease and the lack and the loss and the pain. Guess what happens to all those errors that produced all that chaos and pain? They are canceled out simultaneously, meaning the errors you're making and the errors they've been making that's been producing all the pain, canceled simultaneously. So in other words, correct perception of the truth cancels out the errors. It cancels out the misperceptions that produced, the misperceptions of guilt that produced the chaos and the pain. Beautiful. Correct perception cancels out all errors in you and them simultaneously. I love hearing that. How beautiful. Now, did you have to point out their errors to them? No. All you had to do was perceive correctly, see the truth, have correct perception, see the truth in them, see the truth in you, and their errors and your errors are canceled out simultaneously. How beautiful is that? That is why correct perception heals. And it says that we've said many times, here we go. So it says, because you're seeing them as they were really created, says, because you see them as they were really created and can really create, then you offer them your own validation of their truth. And this is the real healing which the miracle or the correct perception actively engenders. How beautiful. Again, it's just telling us how correct perception really does heal. Your perceiving correctly really does heal them. How does it do that? It says, because when you see them as they really are, it says you're offering them your own validation of their truth. And that is what's healing them. When you offer them your validation of their truth, their guiltlessness, their innocence, you are healing them. That's how you heal other people. You offer them your validation of their guiltlessness, their innocence, their truth, as they were created by love. That's how you heal people. It's also how you heal yourself simultaneously with them. How beautiful to hear how healing occurs. All right. Then it says, the reason why this section is so short, despite its extreme importance, is because this section is not symbolic. This means that this section is not open to more than one interpretation. This means that this section is unequivocal. In other words, what this section says, it means. It's not metaphorical. And it says, every man does have the hope that they can see correctly, because the ability to see correctly is in everybody. Beautiful. Man's only hope is to see things as they are. Wow, how beautiful. And that is the end of that section. So the reason this section is so short is because it means exactly what it says. I love it. That's funny. Okay, and it says that our only hope is to see things as they are. And it says that everyone, what does it say? Every man does have the hope that they can see things correctly. So you can never be without the ability to see things correctly. I love that. No matter what's going on, no matter what is going on, no matter how frightening what appears to be going on is, you are never without the ability to see things correctly, which means to see things in another light. You'll never be without the ability to see things in alignment with the truth. You'll never be without the ability to see things the way God sees them, the way love sees them. And seeing things correctly is our only hope. Why? Because it says, because when you see things as they are, then you bring healing, you bring light and love to what you see. And so, no matter what you are experiencing, no matter how frightening it may feel or appear to you, you still have the ability to see it correctly. You still have the ability to see it another way. You still have the ability, you'll never lose the ability to look at it and see only the love, only the guiltlessness, only the sinlessness of the child of God in front of you. Or with yourself, you'll never lose the ability to be able to look at yourself and see what is the truth about you, and to see what is there in you, which is your innocence, your guiltlessness, your sinlessness, despite whatever mistakes that you have made, whatever errors you have made. And when you look at others with that intent, that desire to see correctly, to see the innocence, to see the guiltlessness in them or in yourself, immediately that perception corrects your errors. It corrects their errors and brings healing, brings peace. And that is why correct perception is our only hope. So my only hope in this situation, which seems hopeless, is my ability to see things correctly, that I can never be taken from me and I can never lose. So let us apply that to whatever situation that appears to be hopeless. And let us remember that there's no situation that is hopeless, either within ourselves or within them. Wow, how encouraging, how inspiring. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do announcements, and then we're going to do a couple of minutes of a closing integration meditation, and then that will be it for this session. So I thank you for watching. I thank you for joining this healing circle that we co-create whenever we come together to hear the truth together, that we might be healed by the truth, that we might extend the truth together to the world. So thank you. Thank you. I thank you, and the world thanks you. So announcements are, you can find all of my classes on my Facebook page and soon my YouTube page. And I do classes every Monday and every Wednesday on Facebook Live from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Wednesdays, as in here, I do the annotated edition of A Course in Miracles. And I am a holistic psychotherapist. And I have a niche that is called Miracle Psychotherapeutics. That's my therapeutic niche, where I offer counseling to folks who would like some therapeutic support, but they would like it from the perspective of A Course in Miracles. And so if you would like to learn about my holistic counseling practice, Miracle Psychotherapeutics, or to schedule a session with me, you can either private message me here on Facebook, or you can go to my website, annakujawa.com, and find my phone number there and text me. Also, if you would like to make a financial expression of appreciation to my Miracles Ministry, then you can go to my website, annakujawa.com, and go to the Services We Offer page, and you'll see a couple of PayPal buttons there. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for your support for this miracles ministry. Your support of this ministry enables this ministry to expand and extend to others who also need to hear that they are innocent and that they are guiltless. And I appreciate that. Now, we're going to do the integration meditation. So what I want you to do is close your eyes and take a breath. And just tune in to how you feel right now, having heard these ideas. Beautiful. And I want you to bring to your awareness a situation or a relationship which to you has felt hopeless, where you have experienced despair, hopelessness, pain, grief, loss, sadness. Beautiful. Now, I want you to tell yourself the truth here, and I want you to say to yourself, I have been deluded in them and in myself. I have been seeing in them and in this situation in myself what isn't there. I have been seeing in them and in myself sin. I have been seeing guilt. I have been seeing in them and in myself a mistake that can't be corrected by love. I have not been seeing in them the guiltless and innocent child of God who can be mistaken but who can never sin. I haven't been seeing that in them or myself. I've been deluded, and that's why I'm suffering. And then take a breath. And tell yourself, I'm suffering and I'm upset because I have not been seeing correctly. I've been seeing what's not there, and I haven't been seeing what is there. But I need healing. And I would also like to offer healing here. And so now we're going to offer healing perception, correct perception. And so let's say to our higher mind, I would like to see the guiltless and innocent child of God in this person and in myself. I would like to see guiltlessness. I would like to see their innocence, even though I don't know how right now. I am willing to see guiltlessness and innocence in this person and in myself. Show me how. Higher mind, show me the guiltless, innocent child of God behind what I'm seeing in them right now. Show me the innocent, guiltless child of God who's just mistaken, who's just making an error in perception, like me. Please show that soul to me. And also show me the innocence, the innocent, guiltless child of God in myself, who is not guilty, who's just mistaken. If I had learned better, I would have done better. Show me myself, the truth about myself, and show me the truth about them. And take a breath. Now, what does this person look like to you now? And what do you look like to yourself now, having asked for correct perception? Beautiful. This is the perception that heals. And I want you to tell yourself, this situation is not hopeless, because I always retain my ability to see myself and them and this differently through the eyes of innocence. I am ready and willing to see correctly. I want to see this differently. I am determined to see this situation and this person and myself through the eyes of innocence. I am willing. Higher mind, show me the truth. Show me the innocent, loving truth about this person, this situation, and myself. And then wait upon Spirit, who will show you the truth. Spirit, show me what is there. Show me the truth about this soul that God has created perfect. Show me the perfection here that I have not been seeing and been suffering because of. Show me the innocent, guiltless perfection in them, behind their mistakes, behind their errors, and show it to me in myself. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I am willing to see correctly. I'm willing to see them differently. I'm willing to see through the eyes of innocence and be healed, that I might offer healing to them. And just breathe and feel what correct perception feels like. Feel what correct perception feels like. Feel what it feels like to have a perception that heals them and you simultaneously. Miraculous perception. It feels good. Beautiful. All right, and then just take a breath and bring your awareness back to your body and back to the room. I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I'm so grateful to you. I thank you, and planet Earth thanks you for your willingness to learn how to have correct perception, which means healing perception. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time I see you.